Erik Horne here with Jean-Jacques Taylor, not John, Jean-Jacques, my bad. It's a Sunday. It's early, relatively. President of JJT Media Group, and here with Andscape columnist Phil Rhoden. And we are back. We are talking about Colorado football. Gentlemen, I texted y'all last night, and I was so proud of my boys. I felt like I was a dad who saw his boys grow up. We got an adult football team on our hands, guys. Like, these are real. This is a real football team.
Let me take it one step further for you. This is what I texted Prime after the game. That's a grown-ass man win. Overcame 13-0 on the road. Damn near reminds me of the win over Southern at the win over Southern. And he responded simply, yes, sir. In the Southern game, if y'all don't remember, Shedeur was playing. Deion, it was his first game in a wheelchair. And Shedeur had a big game. And then Shiloh had an interception at the end to clinch it. And they won 21-14, I think. But there's a whole lot of synergy going on in that game. And that's what that reminded me of did. And I'm like, it was a grown-up moment because it came from behind. And, they dominated when it mattered.
Yeah, that was a major victory. That was a big boy victory, as you guys said. And the thing, and I know we'll get into it, I'm writing a piece on Warren Sapp, which I will deliver soon, Erik, I promise. but I think, man, and JJT, you're sort of like the in-house expert on this. The dramatic change, particularly in that defense and that defensive line, has been night and day. Not only are they better, but these cats, man, are physical. They're bodacious. They're aggressive. I mean, they manhandled they held them, I think, Saturday, 3.4 yards per carry. They were intimidating. It's just been remarkable. And I don't just think it's just the transfer portal. I think it's the transfer portal, but I think it's that whole spirit. If you remember a guy like Sapp, when he was in Miami, man, those cats were like, man, they were like intimidating. They were talking trash, and I think that's in football, that's kind of what you got to have. So to me, that's my big takeaway is how, at least for the here and now, man, they have really become, that defense in particular, that defensive line and the linebacker, they've become a force.
JJT, before you start, I wanted to make sure I got this stat off because I was trying to dig into big boy growth stats last night. And If anybody doesn't know, we're talking about Colorado's win over Texas Tech last night. Believe that the Colorado Buffaloes won 41-27 on the road. This is their third straight win in conference play. These guys are 7-2. They're bowl eligible. We didn't expect Colorado to be this team that was contending for like a college football playoff spot necessarily. That's not what we went into the season saying. We were just like, we need to see growth in certain areas. Like, these guys need to be able to actually make defensive stops, and they need to be able to keep Deion Sanders clean. So here's the stat, okay? Last year in 12 games, they gave up 56 sacks on offense, one of the highest numbers in the nation. Through 9 games this year, they've given up 29. Okay,
that's an incredible improvement. And if Shedeur didn't hold the ball so long, it probably wouldn't be 29. It probably in the high teens.
That's another story.
And here's the other one. Bill, which speaks to the defensive improvement they've made. They're tied for 9th in the country in sacks. They have 29 sacks on defense. They had 27 sacks all year in 12 games. So you've got improved line play on both sides. And that's one of the things we were looking for. When we were watching this team last year. They were not good on either line. It was basketball on grass. And Shedeur was having to save these guys when he was upright. And now you've got him more upright. You've got a better defense. And that enables them, despite the fact that they're still not a good rushing team. They're one of the worst rushing teams in the country, if not the worst running team in the country. They're able to control games better because they got better line play.
There's a couple of things. Number one, they don't have to be a good running team. They just have to have a commitment to run it even when it doesn't work. So you at least have to pay attention to it. And if you have to pay attention to it, that's all they need for the rest of the game to work. Last year, they didn't even run it enough for you to have to pay attention to it. But when you talk about the improvement of the defense and you talk about the improvement of the team, I'm really reminded of this story. His first year at Jackson State, they were getting spanked by Alabama A&M, 40-something to 20-something. And the defense had no answers. They were giving up big plays. And Dennis Thurman, then the defensive coordinator, took the defense over there and said, what is it that y'all want to play? What can I put in that y'all can run? And the defense said, let's run this. And they had 2 mental busts on that play and gave up a big touchdown. And Deion talked to Dennis Thurman on the headset and said, hey, dog, don't worry about it. We're going to get this thing fixed in the offseason. And that, to me, is what he said this offseason. He's like, hey, I mean, let's not act like Deion don't know championship football and championship teams. He knows how they work, whether in the NFL. And you remember, he coached 4 consecutive state champions in high school. So he knows what a championship team looks like, even if you don't have the pieces. And so I think he made a concerted effort to go get some of those pieces in the offseason. And as you mentioned, Eric, Warren Sapp's addition cannot be underestimated. And it's not just about, can you teach individual drills and can you do – Warren Sapp is, you can't even play on my defensive line if you don't have a certain attitude, because he's going to talk about you so bad, you're going to quit or you're going to try. You can't even be around unless you have a certain attitude. And that's what you're seeing now. They got attitude and they got some swag to them, and they're making plays, and now they're playing with confidence. And I'm surprised that they're 7-2, but I'm not surprised that they're playing well.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the big thing now, I think, is, you're climbing this mountaintop. Now you've gone from being this super underdog, and now in these next 3 weeks, their fate is in their own hands, right? Their fate is in their own hands. And it's not like they've got a gargantuous schedule. I'm not looking at, I know they played Kansas. They played 3 Big 12 teams with losing records, right?
Yeah, but Utah, you have to respect Utah. Utah's a cheap.
Always.
Yeah. Utah has got a raggedy record because their quarterback has been hurt most of the year. It's not because they're a bad team.
Right.
That's the game.
But the point is,
Kansas just beat Iowa State, so you got to respect Kansas as well.
Well, and that's the whole point, is that however that thing flows, your fate is in your hands.
Yes.
You're not this little engine that could. Now, you've had this transformation, and now you could play for the Big 12 championship. If you win, if you don't make stupid mistakes, if you have discipline, if you do all the right things. So I think we've all been fascinated with this whole Deion program, but these next 3 weeks, next 3 or 4 weeks, to me, is really going to be, what am I trying to say? Let's just say they've got their fate in their own hands. Okay.
I look at it differently. To me, that makes sense if you're a normal team. This ain't never been a normal team. Even when they stunk, they were everybody's biggest game because, hey, we want to beat them and show Deion this, that, or the other thing. So what they're facing the next 3 weeks is really not much different than they face everything. You think Texas Tech got riled up like they was playing the Super Bowl. Whoever they play next, Utah will be the same thing. This is what you get when you come to Colorado. You get everybody's best shot. And so the fact that you get everybody's best shot means you already know going into the game, you have to play at a certain level because they're not going to give you no mercy. They're not going to give you no break. It's you against the refs and everybody else. And so that's just the mentality that they had.
Except now it's about JJ. I mean, I agree with that. But remember, me going into this season it wasn't about the sideshow. It was about football. It's only about football, not about the sideshow, not about that. It's about the football. Are you going to do the things football-wise that are going to allow you to win games? So I get that they were getting everybody, but they were getting everybody's best shot because of social media and because of the NIL and because all this other stuff. Now they're getting everybody's best shot because they've got really a potentially great team. And can they close out this season playing great football?
I agree with you with that because everything being said, they're supposed to beat the last 3 opponents. Whatever we say, they're supposed to win the last 3 games, end up 10-2, and go to the Big 12 championship game. And they're at the point now with Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State left on the schedule that a loss would definitely be a disappointment. I don't think there's any way around it.
And that's growth. I mean, that's in the beginning of the season, Bill. You know, we're talking about the schedule. We're looking at the schedule saying, based on what we thought coming off of last season, how many of these games are guaranteed wins? That was the kind of stuff we were saying. Like, how many of these are guaranteed wins? And we couldn't really point to any games on the schedule and say, "Oh, well, this is a guarantee." But now that they're consistently beating the teams they're supposed to, that's a sign of true growth. You can't say the same for I'm gonna use this team because of the Deion connection, but because of how poor they've been, Florida State. You see Florida State when you look at Florida State versus so and so, you say, oh, well, that's supposed to be a win. Florida State's 1-9, 1-8.
Right.
So to see Deion go from where they were last year to where you didn't know if they were going to be able to even have a surefire win, to expecting them to win when they go into these games, expecting them to beat a Utah at home, even though it's going to be a tough game, you would expect them to perform to a baseline level, to a level of competency on each side. That to me is a successful season. You know, aside from the fact that they're bowl eligible, which is just a success in itself.
That was the driver at the beginning of the year. A successful year is being bowl eligible. But they knocked that off. And then once you get that, okay, let's see what else we have to give. And so they're in a tremendous position now. And the best thing Deion does is, what does he always talk about? Forever and a day. Keep the main thing. Like, they don't have to, their team won't be looking ahead to, we can get the Big 12 championship, because he'll be about, we got Utah this week. And he understands that part better as well as any coach in the country. And so if they lose, it won't be because they were looking ahead. It's because they made some mistakes and penalties and other things. But it won't be because they overlooked Utah thinking about the big picture down the road.
Right. And Utah, remember, I mean, I think I was at that game. Utah beat them last year. They beat them on the road, and Shedeur was not playing. Remember, that was a big thing with Shedeur play. So they beat them with that freshman. So I agree with you. And another thing I agree with you, and now, of course, I just lost my train of thought about them being really, really focused, is that I think to see the growth in Deion. I mean, remember, there's a learning curve for everybody. You know, I mean, this is all new for everybody, and we've been talking about doing a series of stories on what makes a great coach. And I can even see it in the way people are talking about Deion, because it's not just the show. It's not just the this and that. I think he's being seen differently. He's got a great staff. He's put together a great staff. So I just think these next 3 weeks, and I know what I was going to say, is about, at first, the whole thing was, can we be bowl eligible? Yeah. I think their vision has gone beyond that. Forget bowl eligible. We want to be in the playoffs. And I think that you're right, JJT. I think that people they would have wanted them in a bowl game last year just because of the road show. But I think this year they want them because of the road show, but because they're a great team. So I think I just keep saying they just have to be focused on these next 3, 4, 5 weeks to continue to climb this mountain.
No, but they're going to have a great opportunity because to get to the Big 12 championship game, and that's all you can hope for. And you get a crack at probably BYU.
Yeah.
And nobody looks at that game and goes, oh, my God, we can't beat BYU. They're unbeatable. Nobody looks at BYU like that. And so you're going to have an opportunity. And, that's all you can ever ask for in the game is an opportunity. And you're going to get it if you handle your business and put yourself in position to live that dream this year. Because you're right. You think the networks don't want Deion, Shedeur, and Travis Hunter?
That was the perfect segue, because that was going to be the next thing. It's like, we obviously know how marketable and popular this team was just based on last year, and they weren't even a 500 team.
Yeah.
And they were the most exciting team in college football. And it's funny that, the way it's shaked out this year, with them actually being a better team, a more competent football team, that we haven't heard as much about them, even us ourselves, we haven't talked as much about them this year. So to have them on that national stage, I think, is something that they've got to be salivating at the prospects of, especially since, no team has really emerged as this kind of banner team this year. You got all these SEC teams that are just giving each other body blows week after week after week.
Right.
And who's going to come out of this unscathed? That's kind of this healthy team, but also this team that, people can kind of pin some marquee names to. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are two of the top 3 or 4 marquee names in the game right now. So obviously we're excited to see them potentially go to the playoff. We're getting ahead of ourselves because they still got to go win the Big 12 championship probably to be one of those playoff teams. They probably can't lose again. That would probably put them in a position where they're not going to be a playoff team. But it's exciting to think about them being on that stage.
Dude, they would love the stage because, again, ain't none of this new to them. Their 2 best players have been on the stage since they were freshmen. And so they've got a lot of experience handling these moments. They can pass that experience on. You're talking about Warren Sapp. You're talking about Deion Sanders. Those guys can pass it down to the coaching staff and the players about how you handle the stage. And so the stage will never bother them because you don't come to Colorado unless you prepare for the stage. And you want the stage. See, everybody don't want it. You want some of it, but you don't necessarily want the spotlight. If you come to Colorado, you get in the spotlight whether you want it or not. So if you can't handle it, don't even show up.
And the thing, to me, so we talked about this before, just in terms of the players come to Colorado, very few Black players in the National Football League have played for African-American head coaches in college. Very, very few. So here you are, if you go to Colorado, man, think about it. You got 2 cats in the head coach, and you got 2 cats who are NFL Hall of Famers. How many people could talk about that? Not only did I have a Black head coach, but I had 2 coaches who were in the National Football League Hall of Fame. And I think and then we win on top of it. I think that's, and particularly without kind of politicizing this, I think I've always kind of pulled for Deion just because having a Black coach in Power 4 football is a rare thing. We haven't really had a really highly successful head coach at Power 4, Power 5 since Denny
Green.
Denny Green. I'm not sure. I don't know if we've had this kind of high profile Black college Power 5 coach. I don't know. I want to say ever. I'm not trying to be overhype it, but this is kind of rare. This is rare territory.
It's rare, and I was talking to some friends of mine about this the other day, and it's still interesting because some people, Deion is such a lightning rod that there's some people now they just forever looking for something to criticize because they don't want to give him credit.
Right.
And I heard something a week ago, and I found it very interesting. And this guy was slamming him because he doesn't do in-home visits. And I was like, the scary thing about Deion and the thing that's always made Deion special is what? He's forever done things his way. Forever. And his way has always seemingly worked. And so when you have a group of head coaches in general who say, hey, what is this Twitter thing? What is this iGram thing that all these kids are wasting their time on? Well, he got 2.5, 3 million followers on IG. And so he goes where the players are. Anytime he want to talk to Juju Lewis, he ain't got to call Juju Lewis. All he got to do is do an Instagram live if he want to. And every top recruit in the country who follows him is right there in the palm of his hand, listening to what he had to say. And not once did he ask them to come on. And so he's changed the game in terms of how he goes. And so here's the deal. If I can come to Colorado and I can hang out with these rappers that I listen to all the time, if I can get NIL money, may not be as much as Alabama, but it's enough for me to do what I want to do in Colorado. And here's the most important thing. And I can get developed and go to the league. Why wouldn't I go to Oklahoma? Why wouldn't I go to Colorado? Because look at the Big 12. They should be able to compete there every year once you get it flipped.
Yep. Yeah.
You mentioned a big name there, JJT. And it's a big if. You got less than a month before the early signing period. If they can flip a guy like Juju Lewis and get him somehow to come to Colorado and have that marquee quarterback post Shedeur, like that to me will be one of the biggest things to happen to that program since the Travis Hunter thing with him at Jackson State.
See, I think it's bigger than that, man. In this sense, I mean, bigger is not the right word. Think about it. They got Travis Hunter to come. He about to be a top pick in the draft, top 5 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Jordan Seaton, they got him to flip. He already dominated. You can see the development from the start of the year to what you see now. He's only going to get better. And so that's why I say Deion cannot just pitch, come here and have a good time. I'm developing you and getting you ready for the league. And so when you talk to a Juju Lewis, you say, look, we know how to develop you. We already got a reputation for being a pass in school. We're going to get you all the receivers you need. You just got to go back there and execute. And so they have something to offer recruits. And I guarantee you, if Juju decides to come to Colorado, he ain't coming by himself. There's going to be another 2 or 3. They go, oh, you rolling? Okay, dog, let's roll. Because they all talk to each other.
Yeah. You know, the thing, I'm just wondering, too, since it's our job to get ahead of ourselves, we have that luxury. Yeah. We get ahead of ourselves, you know. But I think, to me, and JJT, you may have, I know you got a better perspective on this. To me, the question is, for all the reasons you mentioned, does Deion stay? Does he stay? You know, you've got 3 really important pieces of his life leaving. His 2 sons.
We feel like we've been trying to answer this question for a long time.
You know, here's the deal.
Well, I mean, what other questions?
People don't like the answer.
It's like,
the answer to me hadn't really changed, but people like the answer.
Huh?
And the answer is, I think he stays in Colorado. I'm not saying he would stay there forever, but for you to leave, okay, I've said this a million times. Deion ain't for everybody. So he can't even go some places because the boosters and that stuff they can't even conceive of having a guy that they can't control. A place like Colorado is perfect for him. And here's why. They ain't got no history of Colorado outside of 5 years of Bill McCartney. He can create the culture. It's not like Michigan, where you got to be a Michigan man. It's not like Alabama. You got to be Bear Bryant, Nick Saban. It's not A&M. You got to buy into this wild and crazy, don't make sense Aggie culture. You can build whatever you want to build in Colorado, and they so happy to have a winner. They're going to get out your way and let you do your thing. So there are a few places that might intrigue him and might entice him, but can I do what I want to do, how I want to do it without you bothering me? Because remember, and don't ever forget, Deion been rich since 1988. Whenever the Yankees paid him, he been rich. He done always had FU money. He ain't never put up with circumstances and situations he don't like. So he likes it in Colorado. That don't mean he won't like it somewhere else, but it would take a real big deal for him to move and leave a place that's got everything he wants, including the lifestyle he likes. I mean, you can't overestimate the fact that he's a nature guy. He's a fisher guy. He likes to be outside. He likes to be in God's creation and see all the wonderments. He enjoys that. And Colorado, ain't too many more places better than that for Colorado, for your spirit.
Yeah. So I hear all that. I'm sorry, JT. I didn't mean to dismiss it.
No. Yes, you did.
No, and that to me, I mean, you know, JJT, all the things you mentioned about the lifestyle, you know, in addition to, you know, what I thought was the most important thing to control and being able to, you know, mold a thing in your image and not have these outsized expectations. I think that's a reason he probably wouldn't go to like a Florida State. Not to mention that Mike Norvell
was part of the problem at Jackson State. Like Jackson State has its own rich history. You have to fit into their culture and their history. It ain't like that in Colorado.
Right. So I guess my whole thing is, you know, you mentioned all those wonderful things, that great analysis. You know, Deion's going to be, what is he? He's going to be like 56, 57.
He's the same age I am. He's 57.
57. So I guess the question is, I mean, what do we do? We can do what we do until we're 100 years old. You know, does he want to, when those 3 pieces of his life leave, Shedeur, Travis, Shiloh, you know, he's been coaching these kids since when? Since whatever. So, and you know how hard coaching is. I mean, coaching is hard. So again, I don't want to, I know, Eric, you keep asking the same question.
You know, you've been hearing me, but you ain't been listening. Yeah. All these years, been my mentor since 1988. I'm aging your butt now. So here's the deal. What has he done basically since he retired? Right. What has he done?
Coach his kids.
Coach, not just his kids, coach kids. Right. He likes making a difference in kids' life.
Okay.
And so just like Travis ain't his son, he just treat him like one. Some other recruit gonna come through.
Right.
That's gonna be a first round pick talent. And he gonna get treated like his son when he got the work ethic and all the stuff that comes. There's a kid, and this is what Deion is all about. There's a kid on his staff, Rashad. And I'm having an old man moment, so I can't remember Rashad's last name.
Right.
I didn't find this out until I started talking to Rashad. Rashad was friends with Deion's son, Bucky, who does all this social media stuff. They were friends in high school. And Rashad, like a lot of wayward kids, used to spend the summer hanging out at Deion's house with Bucky, playing ball and doing whatever. Well, Rashad is telling me this story. He said, Deion saved my life, man. It was three of us who used to hang out with Bucky. And now those two are in jail, and I'm here coaching on the staff. That's what he does, man.
Yeah.
Why? Because he sees himself. He knew his dad, but his dad was not a prominent figure in his life. The most influential people in his life were his youth league football coach and his high school coach. He feels this is his way of giving back. This is his purpose. This is his why. And so he gonna be coaching somewhere, whether he coaching 7, 8-year-olds somewhere or whether he coaching 22-year-olds. What he ain't gonna do is coach grown-ass men in the National Football
League. Right.
Because they passed the mentoring stage.
Right, exactly, yeah. Well, you flipped me.
Cross that.
Yeah.
All right, really quickly, guys, before we get out of here, I want to touch on this. May not apply to the group that's here necessarily, but do we owe Colorado and Deion Sanders an apology? JJT, I don't think you do at all. I think you've been pretty steadfast about what Deion is trying to accomplish, what the program has accomplished. Bill, you and I think you've been pretty rational about it, Bill, from the beginning, and particularly going into this season, that results were what it was about, and he's getting the results. So I don't know if we necessarily need to apologize. There may be some other people out there that need to.
I think the people that owe an apology, it's okay. And you always run into this question as a journalist. There's nothing wrong with questioning things. Like there's not even anything wrong with saying, I don't think it's a good idea for you to not do home visits when you recruit.
Yeah. And the whole notion of do you believe, that to me was nonsensical too, because it's like somebody said, it's not our job to believe. It's our job to analyze and ask the questions that are needed to be asked.
But we all know that a lot of media, most media bring bias into their situation. And there are times where clearly people are openly rooting for him to fail, openly rooting for the program to lose, so that they can say, see, I told you I was right. He didn't know what he was doing. And, you could look at Jackson State and see that the man know how to coach. The question was, and here's what I thought. The question was, could he get players at Colorado? I thought he would take a much bigger hit, and maybe it's too early to see, with NIL, because when there's no NIL, it's, hey, Bill, you want to come play for Prime? Have a good time. But when it's NIL, you can want to play for me as much as you want to. In Alabama, stick $1 million in front of mama and daddy, you going where they tell you to go. You go in Alabama with $1 million, because all I can give you is $500,000. And so I thought NIL would have a big impact on his ability to get the Travis Hunters. But now that he's had success with them, he can literally say, hey, Travis and Shedeur made money here. You just have to perform on the field. You perform on the field with the people I know and the influence I have and the visibility of our program, you can make 7 digits easy. And if you Travis Hunter or my son, you might even be able to tap and touch and see 8 in the horizon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't think, to your point, Eric, I don't think we owe him an apology. I think if you look at our coverage, heck, JJG wrote a book about, I think our coverage from the time he was at Jackson until now has been pretty straightforward. Like the media, he's great for media. He's great. he is great for media. He's a great, character. He's charismatic. He's been that ever since he was playing. I think that my approach, and I've never, and again, I've always been honest, saying that this is the way I think, is that another black man's success is also my success.
Right.
I'm pulling for you. I'm not pulling. I'm pulling for you because when you win, I win. But my approach going into this season was basically, okay, cool. I like the show. I liked all that. Now, can you really win? Can you win big time in this Big 12 conference? And to this point, man, the answer has been a resounding hell yes.
Yeah.
Hell yes, I could win. So that's why, but I don't think we owe an apology. I think that we've been pretty straightforward, and we're still, the jury is still, the first benchmark was being bowl eligible. That was the first benchmark. But now
you said the jury is out. I thought you was going in another direction. Because to me, one of the reasons he'll stay at Colorado is what? Let me show you. See, y'all thought I just won because I had Travis and Shador. Right. Let me show you how I can win. He's a very competitive person. Let me show you. They left. They go have success in the NFL. Now watch me run it back with a new quarterback and a new start and a new this and a new that, just like the other good programs in college football.
Right. No,
that's what I'm excited to see too. That's really what I'm excited to see, because I want to see it outside of the Shador Travis phenomenon too. I want to see it grow into something that's sustainable. And if he can do that, then all the questions are answered.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that. I'm excited for bowl season. Y'all, thanks for joining us. JJT, Bill, thanks for joining us on Andscape. Please make sure to check back on Andscape.com for all of our continued coverage of college football, Deion Sanders, Shador, Travis, and the football phenomenon that is Colorado football. Thank y'all once again.
All right.
Thanks, bro.